So I will state, because I know there'll be people who will push back on what I just said about it accomplished nothing. They'll say, oh, he built awareness. And I'm like, sure, I've heard that before.
For mental health.
Lots of things build awareness. Well, no, the left is talking about it. It's in the news. They put it in the news or whatever. I don't think it wasn't. Here's the point. The fact that Houthi rebels are bombing cargo ships over what's going on in Israel, take no need for awareness over the issue.
Right.
Self-immolation doesn't accomplish any boost in PR other than you publicly killed yourself. He died from his injuries. He did not stop to assess the situation. He didn't think about what he was doing or what it would mean.
Yeah.
He just killed himself. Now, here's what I think. Building upon what Hannah Claire was just saying about people want to matter, I think we also see something related to that. If you look at the George Floyd riots, what were the George Floyd riots really about? They're about COVID. People were locked in their apartments. They couldn't leave. They couldn't go to their favorite restaurants anymore. They lost their minds. It's kind of wild because, you know, I lived in New York for years and I lived in a very small, they called it a 2-bedroom, but the living room and the kitchen were the same thing. So it's a 1-bedroom. I could not imagine being unable to leave because all the businesses are closed. You can't go outside. You can go out and walk around or whatever, but they tell you to go home. I couldn't imagine being pent up and locked up inside and what that would do to your mind. But many people were for months, for almost a year. And then when George Floyd happened, they used that as an excuse to all flood the streets, screaming about all that anger they felt up inside, that was built up inside. I think this guy was mad about something else. I bet he couldn't afford to pay his bills. I bet he was unhappy with his position. I bet he was unhappy with his personal life. And so all of that anger and desperation led him to consider ending himself. Because understand this. I talked about a story about a guy, I think his name was Mohammed Bouazizi. Someone want to fact check me if I'm wrong. Tunisian guy who lit himself on fire in Tunisia, sparking the Arab Spring. A man who self-immolated in protest of what his country had become, triggered waves of protests, and ultimately resulted in a wave of revolutions across all these countries. The reason he did it was because he was a very poor man who was trying to sell fruit from a cart. Government agents, police came up to him and they fined him and said, you can no longer sell fruit and here's a ticket because you didn't get a permit. He had nothing. He couldn't pay his bills. He couldn't buy food for his family. He couldn't even now sell fruit with the government telling him no. So with nothing left in his life and absolute desperation, he just had to kill himself. So he went in front of a government building, set himself on fire, and this triggered waves of outrage that he was fined for trying to live and, you know, he was struggling, and it resulted in mass protests in Tunisia, and then that ripple hit a bunch of other countries as more and more activists started saying, hey, look, it's possible. Now, in the mind of that man, why did he do it? Because the government had crushed him, he couldn't survive, and he was basically dead. He was basically saying, by taking away my only opportunity to make money, you have killed me. And so he ended himself. He ended his life. He was desperate and wanted to die. For what reason does this man want to kill himself in America with a job? There clearly must have been something wrong with his personal life where he would consider killing himself. Mm-hmm. If I'll put it this way, there is zero chance a married father with children would be like, you know what? Because of Palestine, I'm gonna end my life. Oh, hold on. You got a lot going on in your life.
Yeah.
Now, what if his wife was going to leave him and take the kids and he was...
Do we know he was single?
No. Well, I don't know. I'm just saying a person with a stable work and personal life does not immolate themselves over Palestine.
Right. He might be really passionate. He might volunteer with groups. He might lobby as congressman. But deciding to light yourself on fire is a very different route.
Yeah.
It's indicative of something in his life that led him to a suicidal ideation. And he directed that, whatever that anger and pain was, towards Palestine. And you can hear him screaming, free Palestine. I assure you, if you look to his personal life, you'll find distress and you'll find problems.